Music and action. Action. And action. Action. Okay, and action.
So a while back, I heard about this amusement park called Lost Island out in the middle of Iowa. And it was new. It had opened just recently, kind of during the pandemic, right? And it cost something like $100 million to put up an amusement park because, newsflash, that's expensive. No one was coming. Yeah, there's this brand new amusement park in Iowa. No one was there. And sort of like a field of dreams, like, build it and they will come, but they were not coming. And the photos of this amusement park, it looked really dope. Like, it looked really cool. Like, they had really taken their time into putting this thing together, and not just as a, like, generic amusement park, which is the easiest thing to do, right? Like, they went ahead and they themed this, and it's a theme park, right? And they themed it, though, specifically this completely original theme, this Polynesian, lost world of Atlantis kind of vibe. 4 different elements, you know, fire, water, air, and earth, and then like this 5th element of the spirits. So kind of like Captain Planet, kind of like, you know, Avatar, Last Airbender, but in amusement park form. And they went even as far as like inventing their own language for this thing, that the costumed characters were going to speak, and that is written on the walls of this like ancient civilization looking thing. And it's all just like, it was very interesting to me, because they didn't have to do that. Like, it's easy to get people to come to an amusement park. You just have rides and and food, and then you charge people admission. Like, a lot of people don't need the whole theming, but I don't know, the world building aspect of Lost Island looked really cool. It was just completely empty, or almost completely empty, and people were saying, oh, but the rides are so great. And even like Volcano, one of their rides, just won some ride award and all of this stuff, but you know, people aren't showing up. And so this kind of like turned around in my brain a little bit. I was like, what a cool location to film a film in, you know? And of course, the first thought I had was horror movie. But then I kept thinking about it. It's like, actually, there's all kinds of things you could do. You could do a movie about sort of like the world that they've built here, because it already has its own mythology. That would be cool. You could do a comedy. You could do a post-apocalyptic thing. There's so many options. But it was just one of those things that, you know, we have a lot of ideas, and we don't do most of them. And then I brought it up in one of our meetings, and it turns out that Sydney, who's the girlfriend of Random, who is one of our employees on Unprecious, she actually grew up working for the family that runs this amusement park. The amusement park is run by the Birch family. I think they made their fortune making cabinets, which sounds like a really good, wholesome American way to make a fortune. So kudos to them. They had a water park already called Lost Island Water Park, and so this theme park is the extension. And so Sydney had worked at the water park. And so we kind of cold emailed them through Sydney and see, hey, do you want to make a movie? To our shock, they were like, yeah, sure, great, let's do it. And so we got on the phone with them, and we learned more about the park, and we pitched them some, you know, kind of general first blush ideas. And to our surprise, they weren't like, get out of here, but they were like, okay, cool. Why don't y'all come down and make them? So we're like, all right. We kind of gravitated to 2 ideas. One is Lost Island, the mockumentary, which is kind of like, I suppose you would say, like The Office or Parks and Rec or something like that, or Best in Show meets the amusement park world. And so we wrote a couple of funny characters, kind of based on some of their insights and so forth, and, you know, decided to film a couple of those. The other idea that the Lost Island people were into was Lost Island's sort of expanded YA fantasy thing. And so we kind of took the beginning of their mythology and expanded upon it, and turned it into the story of a woman, a young woman who gets a job at the park thinking it's just a park, and then realizes that the magic there is actually real. Like, the park is there for a very specific reason, to sort of like hold down the fort over this, you know, mystical thing. So we wrote trailers. Basically, we decided, you know, trailers or short versions of these videos, just something we could shoot. We also, on the sly, kind of wrote a 3rd one, which is a post-apocalyptic little slice of life story in which, you know, 10 years or so after whatever unnamed, you know, cataclysmic event destroys everything, our character, who's been surviving since that time, stumbles back into the park, which is completely empty. And in the process of that, he meets someone who lives there, and because 10 years have passed, the world and mythology of the park has now taken over, and the people who live there now believe in this magic and this mythology. So I thought that was a really interesting idea. We went out there to shoot, and we really only had a day and a half, right? So we were going to try to get 3 shorts done in a day and a half. Now, our team was not big, so our team was myself, and I was going to be directing and running sound if I need to be, and also just making things happen and in it as I needed to be. And Chris, who is directing and editing, and also is a shooter, and also would need to be in it. And this is just something about our team that I love, that everyone involved can do a crew job or two, but also can act. And so we also brought Sam, who's shooting and grabbing stills and grabbing second B cam, but also is in it. And we also grabbed Random, who is in it and running sound and so forth. And Sydney also was there. She's from this town. Then we just found 2 other sort of semi-local actors who agreed to come by, and we pulled it off. We were able to get 3 shorts, which we'll be putting up pretty soon. Going to Iowa was strange. I don't think any of us had ever been. Well, Random and Sydney had been, but the rest of us hadn't. We flew in on Sunday morning, and I think we got to the park at like 12. We flew in on Sunday. We couldn't find our car at first, which was really frustrating. That took like an hour, even though it's not a big airport. It took like an hour to drive to the park, and so it was noon, and they were open. Now, the Saturday, they had like full, pretty much to capacity. Great for them. On Sunday, it was excruciatingly hot, like 95 degrees, and they had 200 people at the entire park. We basically had 1 half day with people at the park to shoot, and then 1 full day where the park was shut down. But we still got access to a few of the rides, and could kind of had the run of the place, which is awesome. And Eric and Molly who run the place, and they were all amazing. We're excited to show you these shorts because I think they represent a different model of filmmaking, where you are starting with the location before the idea, and they're made quickly, but they turn out to be interesting things. All of these shorts were essentially made for $0. The only cost was we had to go out to Iowa, and we had to eat and stay at a hotel. But separate from that, these are all free. These are all free shorts. I think that's where certainly indie filmmaking has to go to survive. But to make that work, I think you need to start with, you kind of need to use all parts of the buffalo, and sometimes it can be really freeing to go shoot something and not know 100% where you're going to shoot and what you're going to shoot and what it's going to be when you get there, and see it through anyway. So am I glad we did it? Yeah, I think the shorts are going to turn out to be really interesting. If they're not perfect, that's okay. That's filmmaking for you. But I'm glad we did it. It's an experiment, and that's what we're all about here. So hopefully it's an experiment that you enjoy watching.